Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining this session today. I am Giulio Raffaele. I am Research Manager at IDC Retail Insights, and I am very happy to share with you today IDC research regarding the future of retail and hospitality. So, moving to our next slide, I just wanted to share with you the team I'm part of, actually a part of the team I am part of. Together with me work Filippo Battaini, that is head of IDC Retail Insights Europe, and Ornella Urso. And we are part of a global team that is composed by 10 people spread all across the world, and each one of us addresses a different aspect of the retail industry value chain. Particularly, I am focused on doing research on worldwide retail innovation strategies. So, moving to the next slide, and speaking of the research we conduct, I just wanted to give you very quick overview of the base of the knowledge that we develop for innovation in retail. That is the IDC Global Retail Innovation Survey. We have started conducting this survey actually in 2017. So this is now the fourth year in a row that we conduct this survey. And it's a worldwide survey that addresses 3 regions across the different segments of retail. And the most important thing that I would like to highlight is the fact that it is mostly focused on business rules that we think is very important to ask to them the questions about innovation, because it's becoming increasingly controlled by business rules, everything that is related to innovation. And so, without further ado, let's get really straight into the content of today's presentation. Next slide. Because really the first thing I wanted to share with you today is the fact that retail and hospitality companies need to accelerate their approach to having a company-wide innovation. I mean, when we look at this slide, there are 2 news we should consider. The first one on the left side is where you can see written ad hoc, stuck in legacy, is the news that finally very few retailers worldwide are still in the lowest maturity stage of those that do not have that do not address substantially an innovation strategy. They do not consider it a priority for their company, and this has been decreasing over the years in advantage of the following maturity stages. Well, the other news that maybe could have been better is the one that the retailers in the 5th stage, so the highest maturity stage for what concerns innovation strategies, is increasing too slow. And there are too few retailers that are actually leveraging an innovation strategy. So really, retailers and hospitality companies need to accelerate on this aspect. They need to have a company-wide innovation strategy, and they need to have an innovation culture-driven company. And if we move to the next slide, we can see how actually there is an opportunity, we can say, for retailers and hospitality companies in this specific historic moment to accelerate their digital approach. So what you can see here is actually a representation on 2 axes of how, on one side, the different subsegments of retail have been impacted by the COVID-19 outbreak, and on the vertical axis, the relative digital maturity. So the key point here is the fact that you have different types of retailers. You have the grocery and drug and convenience stores that have had the relatively lowest impact from the COVID-19. Actually, we have seen that their revenues have been rising. And then going step by step to the highest impact, we see the general merchandise, discount, specialty retail, up to apparel, footwear, and department stores. Now, if we take this dimension and combine it with digital maturity levels, we can see that according to the different maturity level, well, we have in the left lower side, the ones that have had a low impact and a low maturity that need to invest to accelerate their digital path, we could say. On the left top side, we have the ones with low impact and high digital maturity that have the opportunity to accelerate digital investment to disrupt the market, really to introduce new business models, for example. Then we move to the ones on the right top, that are the ones with a high impact on their industries and with high maturity, that have the opportunity from this moment to leverage digital to grab shares, market shares. And then we have on the lower side, the ones that are at the low maturity level with the high impact that unfortunately are in this situation of postponing digital investment and conserve cash. So the same framework can actually be applied to, if we move to the next slide, as we can see, to hospitality companies. So if we apply the same reasoning, we see how actually service restaurants and fast casual restaurants are the ones that have had the lowest impact on the vertical. And then moving to the right, we say the extended stay hotels, budget hotels, then mid-tier hotels, full service restaurants, up to cruise lines, airlines, and luxury hotels that have been really the ones with the highest impact on their sub-industries. Now, with this context in mind, if we move to the next slide, we actually can get to a more technology-oriented visualization of the context. And we have identified for retailers 5 main impact areas in the post-pandemic. The modernization of retail business, need for more collaborative and transparent culture across the retail value chain, the acceleration of retail digital transformation, the rise of contactless business and services, and the acceleration of global multi-source supply chain strategy. Now, if we look at the technology side, well, this translates, for example, on technologies such as digital platforms and big data, the need for collaborative ecosystems, the need to rethink the store, the need to architect the future store, the need for online learning, and one for all, probably one of the things that have been determining for example, for the food retailers is buy online and pick up in store and new delivery approaches. So, and then connected to this, supply chain orchestration and automation of distribution centers. Then if we move to the next slide, we see that similar things have happened to the hospitality industry. So we have identified 6 impact areas: are the need for flexible infrastructures, the need for remote services and support, more fluid services models and new revenue streams, then the enablement of contactless payment and services, the heightened security and safety postures, and a need for better brand loyalty. This translates, in turn, into technologies such as voice technology, facial recognition, security technology, IoT, 5G, and also here, the need for implementing those teachings that have to be digitally enabled and connected to the overall value chain of the hospitality ecosystem. Now, let's take all of that we have seen so far. So from an impact on the verticals, from technology macro areas, technology impact. And let's take a step back and a higher visual, we could say. And if we move to the next slide, we look at how actually all of this is going to support new business models that we call new commerce everywhere business models. Now, these business models don't look only at the customer side, on how they generate value for the customer, but they really look at the overall way in which they generate value for all of the stakeholders in the retail value chain. And so when we asked retailers which will be the domains in which they will innovate their business model, well, the first one is a partner network, so the ecosystem, and the key way in which they are going to innovate their business model in the ecosystem is through data valorization. Then, there is customer experience. It is always in the top priorities for retailers and hospitality companies. And they affirm that the key driver for innovating the business model in the customer experience domain is by consolidating customer data and leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities. And then finally, last but not least, we have innovating the business model by addressing the cost structure. And the key driver for them in doing this is the optimization of supply chain and sourcing. Now, to enable all of this, to enable all of the technologies that we have seen so far, and to enable new commerce everywhere business models, you need a platform. And so we can see into the next slide how what we call the retail commerce platform is fundamental to execute new business models and as well consolidated business models. So it means that a platform is a best-of-breed platform based on cloud is fundamental to run daily operations and to innovate efficiently and effectively the same. Now, this is an exemplification of the platform that we have, that we see for retail, but actually this can be transposed as well for the hospitality sector. Actually, we have discussed this with many hospitality companies, and they think it's substantially a model that can be applied to their industry with the necessary adaptations. So what is fundamental to consider here is the fact that you have 4 core capabilities that are customer experience services, commerce services, order fulfillment services, and content optimization services. All of them orchestrated by embedded artificial intelligence and machine learning analytics foundations, and we say encompassed by end-to-end security services, and very importantly, development and integration services that integrate these core services to enterprise services, consumer services, and data services. Now, of course, a platform like this will hopefully generate revenues and profits. And so if we move to the next slide, we see how on one side, retailers think they will be generating revenues of the next 3 years. And so if we look at, for example, the top one is e-commerce, but then we see after this the fact that the store remains relevant. So new store types are going to be the second source of revenue for retailers over the next 3 years. And then one thing that we think is very important is the fact that many retailers and as we'll see also hospitality companies, are working on building proprietary technology that they will be provisioning to other retailers in as a service format. And so if we move to the next slide, we see how, in this case specifically, the restaurant segments in the hospitality company, I think they will be generating revenue, first of all, through new store types, so new way of arranging restaurants. And then in second position, and this is very interesting, developing and provisioning the proprietary technology that they can provide to other, to the ones that they would have considered competitors in other times, but probably they are now starting to consider in a co-opetition business model. And as well, of course, we find visual commerce, that is commerce based on predominantly on images and on image search capabilities. And of course, e-commerce will be taking its share as well. And now, coming to a conclusion to our presentation of today, we wanted also to share with you a bit of what are the expectations that retailers and restaurants are getting from innovation. So if we move to the next slide, we see how 50% of retailers and restaurants expect 10% or even more increase in revenue from the innovation programs and from the innovation strategies that they are running. Then if we move to the next slide, we see how 49% of retailers and restaurants expect a 10% or more increase in the reduction of operational costs. And if we move to the next slide, we see how 47% is expecting a 10% or more increase in customer experience metrics. So if we move to the next slide, we see how actually innovation addresses different aspects of the business model and of the value chain of retailers and hospitality companies. On one side, we have the top line, so the revenues. On the other side, we have the operational costs, so we have the bottom line, and we have customer experience metrics that have to be taken increasingly in consideration as a real business metric and as a fundamental business metric to continue to innovate. So, having said this, and moving to the next slide, we have for you 4 key recommendations. The first one is make every domain of your internal value chain responsible for actively contributing to innovation strategy definition and execution. Innovation culture is everything. Then, start now investing in a platform that provides key capabilities for customer experience, commerce, order fulfillment, and content optimization. Build it ready for integration with the ecosystem. Talking about ecosystem, position your company as a promoter of retail and hospitality digital ecosystems. Work with CPG companies, logistics service providers, and other B2B partners to build the infrastructures and software that enable real-time data-driven collaboration. Last but not least, prioritize the building of a microservices-based architecture, whether you internally develop software or leverage IT vendor services. Having said this, it has been a pleasure for me today to share with you what looks like the future of retail and hospitality. And I look forward to connecting with you in the future. Thank you very much, and have a good continuation of the event.